Hello, Mr. Gemlich. Good to see you.
Now you can hear me.
Yes,
I
I can.
suppose. Sorry, I switched it off my telephone. No, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Being allowed to participate.
No, it's a big pleasure. Bonjour tous les collègues de l'Afrique de l'Ouest qui sont avec nous, du Sénégal. Je vois ma chère amie Sylvie Favre du Maroc.
Bonjour Eduarda.
Bonjour, ciao cara. We will start very, very soon.
Eduarda, bonjour.
Bonjour, comment allez-vous?
Ça va très bien, merci. De Côte d'Ivoire, Abidjan, professeur Merawa.
Ravi de vous voir, professeur.
Merci.
Je suis ravie que vous ayez trouvé un moment pour venir.
Oui, on a trouvé un petit créneau, là, je me suis engouffré là dans la brèche.
So, we wait just another minute and we can then start. Sylvia, tu vas bien?
Oui, ça va. Beaucoup de travail, comme tout le temps, comme toujours.
So, let us gradually start. I would like then to welcome all of you, dear colleagues, participants. Warm greetings to all of you. We hope you are all safe with your families, in your countries. I'm Eduarda Castelbranco, and I work on thematic content coordination of this project, developing the African Continental Qualifications Framework, ACQF. Welcome to all of you. Today we have many new participants. Thanks for your interest. We also have many participants who are very regular and faithful contributors and always participating throughout the entire program. And we would like really to thank them very much for their contributions. As you know, this is the 5th peer learning webinar of this ACQF Capacity Development Program. You have all received the details of your agenda for today, as well as the link to the web page in which you find all the presentations and technical notes for your information. Just for a smooth interaction today, let us remind a few rules on our Zoom webinar. As always, please, could you mute your microphones if you are not speaking? Please use the chat box to introduce yourselves, write your questions and comments, and you can stay visible. You can leave your camera on if you like. Please choose the language channel of your preference. On the bottom of your screen, you find the button. And as you know, this webinar is recorded. So, again, welcome, ahlan wa sahlan, bem-vindos, bem-vindas, bienvenue, bienvenue, herzlichen willkommen. So let us briefly look at the main topics we have at this first session. So as always, we'll very briefly look at the agenda. Then, as always, let us recall briefly also the context of this webinar. Then a brief recapitulation of the main learnings from the 4th peer learning webinar, the previous one, 2 weeks ago. And of course, then the 4 case studies at this webinar. We have a very intensive work today with a very busy agenda. 4 cases are going to be shared and discussed. And we have then the national qualifications frameworks of 4 African countries: Angola, Ghana, Egypt, and Zimbabwe. Each country with, as always, 30 minutes for the presentation, and short sessions also for questions and answers. As always, let us briefly also recall, particularly because we have many new participants, the context of this webinar. So the African Continental Qualifications Framework is a policy initiative of the African Union, and development of the ACQF is underway, and our peer learning activities are part of that process. The ACQF is part of the ecosystem of agenda of the African Union Agenda 2063 and its first 10-year implementation plan 2023. It is also a requisite of the Continental Education Strategy for Africa 25, of the African Union Protocol on Free Movement of Persons, and it is obviously an enabling factor for African Continental Free Trade Area. Very briefly, I'd like just to emphasize that the Continental Education Strategy for Africa 25, in its strategic objective 4C and D, calls for the setup of national qualifications frameworks and regional qualifications frameworks, and development of a continental framework, qualifications framework, linked to regional and national to facilitate regional integration and mobility of graduates. We always look as well at this information on the ACQF. And this is the vision as it is discussed with the stakeholders. The vision for the ACQF means an inclusive scope, all subsystems, levels of qualifications, so not only one, higher education or TVET. So also receptiveness to innovation, to new trends, new technologies, new learning, openness to good practice from the world, Africa, stakeholders' contributions as well, to achieve the goals of enhanced comparability and transparency of qualifications, facilitated recognition of diploma certificates, mobility of learners and workers, work in complementarity with national and regional qualifications frameworks, supporting as well the creation of a common African education space, and the ACQF will also promote cooperation and alignment between qualifications frameworks, national, regional, and in Africa and worldwide. The ACQF will then be an overarching framework for referencing, alignment, and also a hub, catalyst to develop national frameworks and their operationalization instruments. We have also briefly seen several times, but I'd like just to recall that developing the ACQF, the development process is underway until 2022 under this project. This is a holistic project, a process, and this is the roadmap. So you can see the four main components. First, the evidence, the stock taking on NQFs and regional qualifications frameworks across the continent. This work is almost finished. Then the analysis of options for this ACQF as a sustainable policy instrument, and immediately connected, of course, with the analysis of options, then the design of the ACQF policy and technical document, supported by an action plan, technical guidelines, website, tools, and continuously the capacity development. So based on peer learning and later also more advanced forms of learning, with the purpose to shape common views and concepts, and also future application via support to countries. And this fifth peer learning webinar is exactly part of this capacity development component. To remind us all, I would like very briefly just to say that so far we had 4 webinars in July and September together, in which we had already 12 different cases, 9 national qualifications frameworks from Europe, Middle East, and Africa, and 3 regional qualifications frameworks, one from Europe, one from Asia, and also the last one from Middle East. And now the way forward starts today. So in October, which will be almost entirely focused on African experiences of qualifications frameworks. And today we have 4 cases in different stages of development. As always, we do also this very brief recap on the main learnings from the previous webinar, the 4th, on the 24th of September. As you remember, we had the cases, 2 national qualifications frameworks, Lesotho and Bahrain. Very different contexts. And we also had the Arab qualifications framework presented as well by Dr. Tariq Al-Sindi. So we, very briefly, these 2 qualifications frameworks have these 3 main important common features. They are 10 levels frameworks, comprehensive, integrated national qualifications frameworks. Now, very quickly, let's look at the main points from each of them. LQF, Lesotho Qualifications Framework, National Qualifications Framework, was firstly enacted in 2005, but it was not really put into implementation. So upon decision of stakeholders, a revision process started in a very participatory manner in 2016, leading to the approval in 2019 of the revised LQF. The NQF institution of supporting the LQF was not put in place immediately, and this was one of the reasons why it did not really take place as a framework. And now the transition to the new institution, Lesotho Quality and Qualifications Council, starts. The revision of the NQF was a very participative process, as I already said, and the LQF is defined as a coherent, integrated national qualifications framework, consistent with other NQFs in the SADC region, Southern African Development Community, allowing comparison of qualifications and mobility of learners. The comparison of qualifications is based on 2 main aspects, let's say. One is the level complexity, based on 10 levels, level descriptors, knowledge, skills, and competences. And the second element is volume of learning, so based on the credit system. Learning outcomes appear as a very fundamental element of the framework, since all qualifications specify learning outcomes appropriate to the level descriptor and also specific to the qualification, and learners are assessed against the learning outcomes. The BQF, Bahrain Qualifications Framework, is operational since 2014. The Education and Training Quality Authority, BQA, and especially the General Directorate of NQF and Examinations are the lead institution of coordinating and running the NQF. The BQF includes all learning centers, all forms of learning, and quality assured learning programs. Dr. Tariq Al-Sindi offered us a very detailed overview of NQF operations, and this was a major added value of his presentation, let's say. So we could very well, I think, understand the 2 main, let's say, components of NQF operations, which are from one side national qualifications and from the other foreign qualifications. National qualifications including 2 important elements, interconnected, of course, being the first being institutional listing of national qualifications, and then also institutional listing, and then the qualification placement, sorry. How is this done? We had also a good overview based on standards and indicators for each one of the elements, institutional listing and qualification placement, and the same on the foreign qualifications. We always also would like to have a look again and reflect again at the issues that national qualifications frameworks are addressing, and this can be seen namely by the objectives they set. So here you have the full list, let's say, of the main objectives of each of the frameworks presented last time in the previous webinar. And we have just highlighted here in red, underlined, those objectives that seem quite similar across the 2 frameworks. So you can see remove barriers between subsectors and institutions, Also, another important objective, improve articulation and learner mobility. Acknowledge and value diversity and worth of all qualifications as they serve identified purposes for broader national development goals. On the other side, we also see, for it's very similar, as like improve the transparency of the value of qualifications, facilitate progression paths within and across education and training sectors, and facilitate recognition of all forms of learning, formal, non-formal, and informal. We could not recall as well an important topic, an important element of the presentation of BQF, which was about the main lessons learned in the country from the COVID-19 response, to the response to the COVID-19 crisis. Actually, this was even one of the questions we had in the Mentimeter exercise at the end of the webinar. And these were the most important 5 lessons learned. So first of all, sustainability of learning is core of education, and this requires risk management and crisis management, risk assessment and crisis management, flexibility of learning, creativity and innovation, as well as motivation, continued review and refinements, as well as updated regulations, the capacity to take decisions on updating the regulations to cater for the current situation of learning. We all have heard a lot about this new normal, which has become the real normal. The discussants' views were formulated by Professor Mamadou Sarr in a very brilliant presentation. So Mamadou pulled together all the various elements from the 3 presentations into 3 main blocks. And here we only look at the blocks, not at the details. First block focused on guidelines, principles, objectives, and methodologies. Then another block on requirements, challenges and opportunities, standards and indicators. And then the third block, systems, implementation mechanisms, and procedures. You have access to this presentation. It is also uploaded in the webpage of the 4th webinar. Although for now it's only in French, but I will translate it and upload it in Portuguese and English as well. Let us also very briefly again recall the themes, the thematic areas that we are addressing and sharing through this peer learning program. So you all remember, we have discussed, and you have all these themes also in your agenda. We have 9 planned themes, they are listed here, and we added one, which is the response to the COVID-19 crisis. Considering here we just present more or less let's say in a colorful manner, the way how the various themes are being covered across the various webinars. And we can see very well that not all of them are being given the same emphasis and attention. And so we will have to pay more attention to some of these themes. For example, digitalization, quality assurance, and as well as the review and monitoring qualifications frameworks. And we tried also to quantify and put together in form of a graph the frequency of how these themes are being covered by the various webinars. So considering all the topics addressed in the first 4 webinars, 12 cases, and through this quantified graph, we can see that some topics have been given full coverage. For example, NQFs, their context, objectives, and evolution, scope. Others have been given much less attention, let's say, so far. And for example, recognition of prior learning or validation des acquis de l'expérience or reconhecimento RVCC has been one of those topics with less attention so far. But at the next webinar, the 6th webinar, we will have a very substantive input into this topic, very necessary topic. Also, you can see that digitalization has not been given a lot of attention so far. Today we will have, and also at the next webinar, important contributions to this topic. We will not dedicate much attention this time to looking at the results of the Mentimeter exercise. You can all see the results, the report of the Mentimeter exercise with the questions and all your replies. It is all uploaded in the website, in the web page of the fourth webinar. It's always very interesting to see your personal views and responses. And this is a very nice visual, very well visualized way to see how your attention is directed to one or the other topic or option of the various case studies. The 4 case studies today we have then 4 countries with a population more or less together of over 180 million inhabitants. These countries are in totally very different regions across our continent. In the north, Egypt, with a population of 102 million inhabitants. In the west, Ghana, then Angola, between central and southern Africa, and Zimbabwe, Southern Africa. There will be some common threads in the discussion today, perhaps under a common umbrella that we could call construction and dynamics. And this was not really planned on purpose, but it appears that indeed at least 3 of these cases are cases in dynamic, in a line of dynamic development. So we would like to thank very much, first of all, the 4 or more than 4 speakers today for the time dedicated to carve very nice, detailed, pleasant presentations for you. The presentations are already uploaded, and for the time they will also spend with us. First, from Angola, we will have Ana Cláudia de Andrade. She's the head of technical division managing the national qualification system. And this is linked, this division is part of the technical management unit of the National Plan for Human Resources Training, which is an important, very important program running under the Civil House of the Presidency of Angola. Thank you very much, Ana Cláudia. Ghana, we will have Mr. Maxwell Kisi. He has been always a permanent participant of all our webinars. He's the head of credential evaluation of the National Accreditation Board. From Egypt, Professor Johansen A. Ahlan Zahlan. She's the president of the National Authority for Quality Assurance and Accreditation of Education, NACAE. And then from Zimbabwe, we will have 2 speakers. First, Professor Kuzvinetsa Zvimbo. He is the CEO, Chief Executive Officer of Zimbabwe Council for Higher Education, and also Dr. Juan Dai from Lupine State University to present the experience of quality assurance and national qualifications framework of Zimbabwe. Thank you very much. I already stopped sharing, and I'd like then to invite our colleague and also permanent, continuous member, participant of these peer learning webinars, Ana Cláudia Pinto de Andrade from Angola. With her colleagues, she will then present this very new case of a national qualifications framework in development and embedded in a wider vision of the national qualifications system. Ana, if you like, you can already start sharing. Ana will speak in Portuguese and present in Portuguese. So please use your interpretation channels, colleagues. Muito obrigada, Ana.
Obrigada, Eduarda. Não sei se me está a ouvir.
Thank you very much, Eduarda. Can you hear me? Yes, we can. I will start sharing my screen now. Can you follow? Yes, we can. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I would like to thank you for the opportunity. I would like to commend all participants. I'm Ana Claudia Pinto. I am from National Qualification Framework, Head of Technical Division. We are affected to the technical management of National HR Training. Our presentation is about a program that was established by our authorities in Angola, and the objective is the establishment of our national qualification system in Angola. My presentation is structured in 6 main topics. Angola is faced with many challenges. For instance, the lack of value for our qualification, lack of dialogue between. We are having a bit of interference from Angola. Could anyone let them know that the sound is coming with a cut? In that regard, the training of human resources in Angola is one of our priorities of our government. This is taken into account in the establishment of our national qualification system. The program was established in 2017, but our work dates back, way back from that period. Maybe 2003, the Ministry of Education and Higher Education, as well as Labor and Social Security Ministry, they had begun this kind of job, aiming to the establishment of our national qualification framework. However, we were faced with some challenges in the process, and only in 2017, we were able to continue what we had started. The establishment of national qualification system in Angola includes a political will. It came as a recommendation in the human resource training plan. This national planning instrument was established in 2013, 2020, and is still under review. In this process, there was a recommendation in order for us to establish the national qualification system. Also, as a goal, in order to develop our human resources in Angola, in our national development plan 2019-2020, which is the national development plan, our government development plan, and also because our regional body, the SADC, had recommended member states to come up with their national qualification system. In order for us to establish this system, we have many units. The technical management unit coordinates the process. This coordination is also done in cooperation with 3 ministries that are very important in the process. As I said, Ministry of Public Works, Labor and Social Security, that caters for the professional training, the Ministry of Education as well, and the Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Technology and Innovation. Also, other main actors are involved in the process. We do have international partners such as Red Pop. It's a European Union funded project and involves many institutions such as Camões Institute and many others. Apart from that, since this is a process in order to restructure our teaching system, we have many objectives, including the establishment of national qualification framework in Angola. All our work is supported by Red FOP,
que está cá em Angola e nos tem
and we have Red FOP representative currently in Angola in order to assist us in the establishment of national qualification system in Angola. We also had the support when we established national catalog of qualification. We had to involve social partners and other sectors. Now I'm showing you the characterization of our education and training system in Angola. This, we have the primary education up to grade 6, secondary education, 2 subsystems, general secondary education, and then vocational training. And further down, we have the high education with the master's and PhD. Before, we also had bachelor degree, but we had to review that and we removed this degree in Angola, which is no longer applicable. But we also have professional training to the left. In Angola, professional training does not involve levels. I believe that as soon as we establish our national qualification framework, we will define professional levels for this segment. And after the approval of our national qualification framework, I think we will have that included in this area. Other than the current framework, which dates back, we have other plans that when the current system under development will enter into force, will now update the previous one. I was saying that national qualification framework is included in our government program, but it has 4 main objectives: establishment of national qualification framework, 2, the development of national qualification catalog, 3,
elaborar os processos de
is
reconhecimento
to process of recognition, validation and certification of competence, and 4, Angola national qualification agencies. When it comes to national qualification framework, the main objectives are very clear, as you can see, is order to improve the articulation and proximity between education, vocational training, and labor market, and excuse me, we are having interference and we are not able to follow the presentation. Moderator, please. This year, we carried out a number of actions, such as technical meeting, where we are discussing the proposal about the structure as well as learning outcomes. And our first interaction between the unit, we think that 3 levels and domains will be important. This is just to begin, just the beginning. And also because in the region, we want to align our framework to that of the region. We, in our meetings, we included 3 domains: knowledge, skills, autonomies, and responsibilities. The target this year, 2020, as I said, we will work in order to achieve that particular
O outro objetivo é o
still
catálogo
in 2020. Another objective is the National Catalogue of Qualification. National Qualifications Catalog. This one will be developed next year. But work have already begun
junto com Red Foco,
together with Red Fork. We launched the tender for a study to be carried out involving economical activities and labor market.
Tão logo tínhamos
This will allow us to define the professional areas. And this will be concluded in November this year. In the proposal, we do have the types of professions already included. And we do have process for recognition, validation, and certification of competence. This is very important as objective because in Angola, we do have people with working experience, a lot of it, especially in the oil industry. But this experience and competence are not recognized. Therefore, we will now begin to take that experience into account and validate and certify it. In 2022, we do have a goal, which is the establishment of a national qualification agency. This agency will promote and ensure the functioning of sectoral councils and manage RVCC process. As you can see, this objective, I'm sure that will be concluded in 2022. Next, we have our plan of action. We identified good practice related to national qualifications. Last year, we carried out three seminars in 4 provinces, but due to COVID-19, we had to stop the visit, and we continued with virtual process. And we had the preparation and approval of the legal regime and national qualification system, and development of study on labor market and economic activities. Also, we carried out other activities such as conducting sectoral studies in professional families, review of the basic law of professional training and other provisions, the classification of actors in competence qualification, and we analyzed a number of proposals, technical proposals, and we established an integrated system and qualification training. For 2022, we hope that we will establish the agency and we will prepare the technical process related to RVCC and preparation of the RVCC regime procedures, creation of the technical teams to implement the pilot testing of RVCC process that we aim. I think I ran out of the time allocated to me. I hope we were able to follow my presentation. Thank you for your kind attention, and I give the floor back to the moderator.
Nyanga, fizesse uma breve apresentação do Qualificar.
I wanted to ask Dr. Nyanga to talk about Qualifica project. Good afternoon, colleagues.
Ok. Muito obrigada a todos, espero que estejam todos bem.
Thank you very much. I hope you are doing well. Well, I will carry out from where my colleague stopped. In this process, UTG includes training offers. We have come up with an application, CGOF, and this allows ministries and partners and the technical unit to follow up in the offer of trainings by various institutions in Angola. This information system has been there since 2014 in digital form, but it was there since 2013 in other platforms, and is coordinated between the Ministry of Education, Higher Education, Science, Technology, and Innovation, the Institute of Labor and Professional Training, and the institute that supports and implement micro and medium enterprises. Since there was a need to provide this information at a higher level, we had to come up with the application, mobile application, which is a front office for this system that I'm talking about. The application is very simple, as you can see. Is one of the major platforms for available in Angola for the training courses that are available. Currently is being updated, and the feedback is very good from the audience. It allows the public, youth, most of the times, and their parents and tutors to take informed decision based on the information that we share. This is in order to simplify the access to information. We provide information timely in order to assist students, learners in their decision with regards to which course to choose. And we also help students that are already under training in sometimes in the countryside and hard to reach areas, helping them to access information. And this is contributing to the continuous training of our youth in Angola. With regard to the features of this application, in its recent version that will be launched next soon, target public. We will include favorite courses by preferences, and we will also publish events. And if somebody is interested in enrolling to some of the units, they can use this application to do so. We will start very low with a few institutions, including the School of Hospitality, and also as the Center of Technology Restoration and others. But we will also try to motivate the public in order to use this application. To conclude, I will bring the application itself. We have three main features. First, you can research the courses of your interest by topic, by area, as defined by UNESCO, by type of course, computer literacy, depending on whatever the student is interested on. but also you can research by level of education. If you are interested in secondary education, if you are interested in more advanced training, if you're interested in vocational or professional training, you can just choose the research as you wish. Thank you. I will not steal much of your time. I would like to give back the floor to Eduardo. Thank you very much, colleagues. Thank you, Anna Claudia. Thank you, Anna Pinto, Dr. Adao, everyone behind this initiative. Thank you so very much. All of you who are working in the establishment of national qualification systems. I think that is already bringing the results that the entire country is hoping for. Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you, Dr.
Colleagues,
Eduardo. It's been a pleasure.
To the team from Angola who has been working hard on this project. There are some questions on the chat box, but we will deal with them during the short questions and answers session, if you don't mind. And this session will be right after the presentation from Ghana. So I would like to say a big thank you and applaudissements to Angola for the presentation. And we can now, Anna, you can already stop sharing your screen.
I'm struggling.
Já pode parar. E assim podemos dar, já pode parar de, exatamente, ok.
Ok, obrigada.
Thank you very much. And so we will have questions and answers right after the presentation of the National Qualifications Framework in the making of Ghana. Maxwell, are you ready to share your screen?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Maxwell. I hope you are all having access to the interpretation channel, and you can hear all in French, Portuguese, English, your selected language. Maxwell, would you like to share your screen, or do you prefer? Erica can also share for you, and then it's
yes,
also
sure. Let me know.
So yeah, Erica, can you do that for me, please?
Yeah, very good, Erica. And then Maxwell, you will just say next slide when you are finished with the. Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. No, this is, sorry, this is the Portuguese version. We need the English version.
Yes, I would need the English version.
Yes. Excellent.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good. Good.
And presentation.
I guess we are set to go, Erica.
Is it okay, Erica? Can you put it as a slide show, or?
I'm sorry, I don't have the PPT version, so I'm going to share the PDF if it's okay, because I didn't receive one, but if I think it's visible, I'm trying to put it as bigger as I can.
Okay, that's good.
Okay.
Okay. Maxwell, if you would like to then start, thank you in advance for your presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Eduardo, and greetings from Ghana to everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to share the experiences from Ghana. We are grateful for this platform, the learning experiences we have had. We are very, very happy and grateful. Yeah, so this presentation is just going to share with participants the efforts Ghana is trying to make to set up its national qualifications framework. That is the national overarching framework. There is a framework in place at the TVET sector, but the nation is trying to put together a common framework, a composite one for operation within the next 2 years. Can we go on, please? Yes, so this presentation will be looking at the general education system of Ghana, and we will look at the developments in the regulatory space. There are some regulatory agencies in Ghana which are going to be very important for the development and management of the national qualifications framework. So we are going to look at some happenings on that in that space. I'll look at the overview of the national TVET qualifications framework, and then set out the basis for the proposed national qualifications framework. Look at the objectives, the features of the framework, the governance option, the challenges, key priorities of the NQF roadmap, and then finally we'll look at the nation's response to the COVID. Oh, I'm having an echo. Hello?
There is some echo, indeed.
Yes.
So could we, I don't know if...
I think it's okay. It's okay now.
Okay now?
If I can go on.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so then, Erica, can I have the next slide, please? Yeah, so the education system of Ghana is based on this structure we call 6334, basically covering 3 sectors. The basic education sector, where we have the 6 years of primary education, 3 years junior high, and then 3 years of post-basic, that is the secondary level, both at the general and then the technical and vocational areas, and then 4 years of university undergraduate education. So that is basically the structure, the structure of the Ghanaian education system, the 6334. Next slide, please. So this slide is just showing the pictorial form of the system, that is looking at the 3 cycles, the basic education at the first cycle, secondary education second cycle, and then the third cycle where we have the postgraduate level of qualification. So we start from the kindergarten. The years indicated here are just for guide. You know, it's not supposed to mean that, for instance, at the senior high level, one has to be 18 years before you exit. It's just these are the guides for the various institutions to follow. So you start from the kindergarten, where we do 4 to 6 years, 4 to 6, and then for 2 years, from 4 years to 6 years, and then 6 to 12 years for 6 years, and then the junior high, and so on. So, and then if you look at the right-hand side, the technical side has the proficiency levels, and then the junior high, and then it goes on and on to the D-Tech, that is the doctorate level. And then we also have some foreign qualifications at that level, that's the schooling level, which we compare with what pertains in Ghana. We look at the mainly the EU and the USA. We look at the GCE O levels, we look at the International Baccalaureate, and then the US high school diploma. Can I have the next slide, please? Yes, the four main regulatory bodies are important in what we try to do. And in recent times, as part of the reforms that the government is introducing in the country within the educational sector, these four regulatory bodies are going through some changes. The changes are supposed to consolidate their operations for effectiveness and efficiency. Okay, so we have the first one, the National Council for Tertiary Education, which is mainly responsible for advising the government on the development of tertiary institutions in Ghana, and also recommending the national standards and norms. And then as they do that, the norms are also, implementation of the norms are also monitored and so on. So that is mainly what the National Council for Tertiary Education does or has been doing. Next slide, please. And then the next one is the National Board for Professional, and the other word is technician. There's the little error there. Technician examinations. This body is responsible for conducting the examinations at the professional and the technician and professional examinations. That is in consultation with the polytechnics. Right now, all the polytechnics in the country have been converted into technical universities. So you actually don't have these polytechnics as they used to be, but the programs they run have been placed under these technical universities. But NAPTEX is still in place. Next slide, please. The next one is the Council for Technical Vocational Education and Training, COTVET. This body has been in charge of TVET, the coordination of all the TVET programs in the country, formulating policies for skills development across the broad spectrum of pre-tertiary and tertiary education, formal, informal, and non-formal. Next slide, please. The next one, which is my home, the National Accreditation Board, it's mandated to accredit both public and private universities as regards the contents and standards of their programs. The board also is mandated to establish or determine the equivalencies of qualifications at all levels awarded by institutions in the country and elsewhere. The board also advises the government on the grant of charter to private institutions. In Ghana, private tertiary institutions at the university level are supposed to operate for a minimum of 10 years, after which they apply for presidential charter. So the board is responsible for advising the government on the grant of presidential charter to the private tertiary institutions. So before the charter, these institutions are placed under mentorship of public institutions. Next slide, please. So as part of the new arrangements and changes that are coming, the government has decided to merge the National Council on Tertiary Education, which is the policy wing of the regulatory space, to the National Accreditation Board in order to remove overlapping, functions and sometimes conflicts which arise as a result of these overlapping areas, so that there will be more efficiency in regulating the space. So National Accreditation Board, as I speak now, the law which set it up has been taken off and replaced by the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, that is through an Act of Parliament, Act 1023. So this is the body which is going to manage the proposed national qualifications framework. The other body, the COTVET, which has been in charge of TVET programs in the country, is also merged with NAPTEX, the examinations body at the technical sector, so that the two bodies have now become the Commission for Technical and Vocational Education and Training. Next slide. So a quick overview of the National TVET Qualifications Framework. This framework has been in place for about 3 years now, and is currently being in operation and doing very well. Recently, or as at now, about 7,000 qualifications at that level have been awarded to learners as part of the implementation process. 7,000 candidates have been awarded qualifications based on the implementation of this framework. The framework has 8 levels. Level 1 being the National Proficiency 1, and then it goes up to level 8, the Doctorate in Technology. The qualifications, all qualifications registered on the framework have numerical credit values, which indicate the notional hours a learner or an apprentice would typically take to achieve and demonstrate the expected outcome. 1 credit is equivalent to 30 notional hours of learning. The levels of the qualifications framework within this sector are determined using level descriptors, clearly defined by outcomes, learning outcomes in terms of knowledge, skills, and attitudes. Yes, so this is the minimum accumulating credits per the level of qualification. Right now, as the qualification is being implemented, the qualifications which have been awarded have been up to the National Certificate 1. So the intention is to move all the way to the doctoral level. But right now, implementation has gotten up to National Certificate 1, and a total of 7,000 plus qualifications have been awarded within these 3 qualification levels. I must say that the qualifications are awarded as complete qualifications per level, but there are units which are also offered, so that if one is unable to complete all the units for a qualification, then there's also the award of a certificate of competence. Okay. Yeah, so a full achievement at a level will result in the award of the qualification at that level. But if the candidate is unable to achieve that, the units achieved will be awarded as a certificate of competence. Next slide, please. So this is a simple picture of the map showing the vertical and horizontal pathways available for progression. So on the right-hand side, right from the National Proficiency 1 up to the Doctor of Technology, and it's also showing the possibility of one moving from the main general education to the technical side, what this framework hasn't shown is movements from the technical side to the general education. Because right now, it's possible for somebody with a higher national diploma to move to the other side to pursue a bachelor's program or any of the other programs at a higher level. So, but that is not depicted here. So this is a depiction of the pathways available for the technical sector. Next slide, please. So already some benefits are accrued. We look at the qualification framework as a single mechanism for recognition of national qualifications, TVET qualifications. You know, this is a single mechanism, a single framework, which is for TVET recognition. It's also ensuring that qualifications listed on the framework meet the predetermined standards and have credibility. Before any qualification, please,
I would like to take this opportunity.
hello?
Sound, please.
There's some background.
Yes. Please, can you mute your microphone? National Research Foundation with Dr.
Okay, so looking at the benefits which have already been achieved, the framework is ensuring that qualifications listed meet the predetermined standards. Before a qualification is listed, these go through accreditation. Before a qualification is listed, these go through accreditation. The standards set for a qualification is predetermined. There's no doubt about it. And then improving the relevance of TVET qualifications to the workplace. In Ghana, before the development of this framework, people generally looked down on TVET qualifications because they couldn't trust the sources and the standards and so on. But these days, that's a thing of the past. TVET qualifications are recognized at the workplace. Supporting learner access to flexible pathways to TVET skills. So as shown in the previous slide, it is possible to move from the left to the right. That is main sector to the technical sector and so on. And then it is also possible now to look at the issue of lifelong learning. Right now, as part of processes, the implementation processes, RPL, recognition of prior learning, is being considered. In fact, but for COVID, this would have been done before the end of this year. So work is progressing steadily on that front to ensure that recognition of prior learning as a feature of lifelong learning becomes formal. Next slide, please. So having looked at the technical side, the country is now trying to put together a framework for a composite framework, so to speak, for the entire country. And in Ghana, the main conventional education sector has a higher population than the TVET sector. So putting these together would ensure the mobility of qualifications from one sector to the other, as I explained earlier, and it will ensure that all these qualifications on both sides are recognized. So they are being put together within this framework, and the basis for what we are trying to do is to prevent the disjointed qualifications in the Ghanaian qualification system. It is possible now to go to one university, find a qualification in, say, economics, and then go to another school offering the same qualification or qualification with the same title, but you might find the content and awarded credits and so on being different from one school to the other, you know. So all these, the attempt to set up this NQF is to correct these issues of disjointed qualifications in the Ghanaian space. Also, difficulty in understanding qualifications for academic progression and job placement. It's been very difficult. In my office, we receive all kinds of qualifications with titles, you know, which nobody understands, and one is expected to establish their equivalences. It becomes very, very difficult or impossible, you know. So these are going to be addressed. Uneven horizontal and vertical progression pathways, especially between TVET and the conventional academic pathways. Lack of recognition of other forms of learning, such as non-formal and prior experiential learning. So these are what we seek to address in setting up the composite national framework. Next. Next slide, please. Okay. Yes. Just to add to that. Okay. Oh. Okay. So these are all additions to the points we want to address. Lack of harmonization, credit systems for standardized, equitable, and transparent system of qualifications. Lack of clear policy on recognition and evaluation of foreign and professional qualifications. Different learning outcomes and expected competency levels within cross programs at the tertiary level. I think I've talked about this. And widening gap between educational attainment and labor market. It's very common for a program to be put together without any consultation with the labor front, you know, so that a qualification would have been put together, but the expected outcomes and expected skills don't match what the labor front expects or industry expects. So these are the things we are trying to correct, putting together the NQF. The objectives. We seek to provide institutions, employers, and individuals, and the general public with reference points and clearer understanding of what a person holding a particular qualification has achieved. So this is very, very important. Facilitate the determination of similarities between local qualifications and across foreign qualifications. In the system right now, we receive lots of foreign qualifications for determination of equivalences. And because there's no qualifications framework in place, we go through a very laborious process of putting together experts to look at the content of the program, the outcomes, and so on, and to indicate to the board which level will be acceptable for a particular qualification. That takes a whole lot of the time we need to evaluate or to establish the equivalence of a qualification which was awarded outside the country. So this is one of the objectives. We seek to promote harmonization of qualifications in different sectors of education training, alignment of sector-specific qualifications with the world of work. And the objective is to develop and enhance systems in place for effective academic mobility and progression within and across both locally and internationally. So the framework, the objective is to have a framework which will help us to, you know, iron out all these difficult areas, all these areas which are posing problems and challenges for learners. Next slide, please. Okay, and then to facilitate national, regional, and intercontinental mobility of labor, experts, and professionals. and then to promote quality in education and enhance people's confidence, both locally and internationally. Yes. Next slide, please. So the proposed NQF will have 10 levels, with the first, the level 3 being the junior secondary school certificate, and then 10 a doctorate. Doctorate. So we will at the main education, the conventional one, we are looking at level 3 to 10. The background noise, please.
I think it's better now again.
Yes, okay. So we are looking at 10 levels from 1 to 10, which is the doctorate. And then it will have these 3 cycles, as I explained earlier, the basic, the secondary, and then the tertiary levels. And then the levels to be determined by descriptors defined in terms of learning outcomes and expected competencies. And then as part or a feature of the framework, we're going to have a qualifications register. And for a qualification to be registered, it would have gone through accreditation and all the quality assurance processes. So that is how we are looking at it. This is a pictorial view of what we seek to do, the map of the framework, with the 10 levels on the left being the general academic qualifications, levels 1 to 3 fall within the basic education. Then levels 3, we have the GCE O level equivalent, and then levels 4, senior high school certificate, and so on to the top. And then we have the proficiency 1, 2, and then certificates 1 and 2 on the technical side. So we believe that with this composite arrangement and management under one regulator or body, this is going to be effectively implemented and to help develop the education sector. So this is the proposed map of the qualifications framework we seek to set up. I must say that all these proposals which are being considered, the approval has been given by government to develop the framework. Proposals have been put together and accepted at the board level. We are now, can we go to the next slide, please?
They could now start taking control of their own lives.
Okay, so just a quick one on the governance of the system. As I indicated, the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, GTEC, will be the body that will be responsible for the management of the framework and the support, with the support from the Ministry of Education. Other important bodies which will come on board will be the Commission for TVET, the Ghana Education Service, the West African Examinations Council. These are expected to play major roles in the implementation and management of the framework. Next. Okay, so right now, what we seek to do is to find to find a consultant who would help with putting together the level descriptors and other aspects of the development of the NQF. So right now, that is a challenge. We don't have that. We also don't have stakeholder buy-in right now. In-house capacity is very, very low. We are now trying to build capacity thanks to the ACQF project. We are all learning and coming on board. So we seek to build in-house capacity. And then the other challenge we have is the measure of the agencies. Right now, all the two agencies which have come on board, the GTEC and then the Commission on TVET, these are all in transition periods. I am speaking for National Accreditation Board right now, but strictly speaking, National Accreditation Board is no longer in place. We are in a transition period. And because of that, some of the timelines we have set for ourselves are going to be affected because we have specific timelines for various phases of this development, but we are having to put some of them on hold as we await the constitution of new boards and councils and committees to manage the new bodies which have been set up. So as we go through these waiting periods and so on, work is going to be affected or delays are going to be introduced in the process of developing the framework. We are also looking at funding, and then we also think that the incident of COVID is going to have some effect on timelines set for what we had planned to do. Next, please.
Next slide.
Yes, so the key priorities of the NQF roadmap, we have the proposal in place. The proposal has been accepted by the board, the National Accreditation Board. We have now had legal support by that is under the new body which has been set up. The development of the qualifications framework has been captured clearly under the new act, but we are yet to have the legislative instrument for its operationalization. So there's some legal support that we need, which should come on board as we go along. The engagement of a consultant is a must. We are now looking for a consultant. I believe on this platform, we might have some assistance in that direction. Formation of a technical working group. So what the plan is that once a consultant has been appointed, then the technical working group will be put in place, and then the next steps will follow the multi-level stakeholder consultations, and as well as the working out the budget for the entire project. Next. Yeah, so basically that is an outline of what the new qualifications framework we seek to develop is about. But looking at the effect of COVID on the country, once the first case was came in on 12 March, a few days later, all institutions in the country were closed. So the closure of the institutions at all levels. And then at the tertiary level, almost every institution began to look for ways of introducing online technologies to facilitate teaching and learning. It's been difficult because depending on where an institution is located, network problems, and new technologies being introduced have been very, very difficult. So, but some universities and tertiary institutions have been able to take up the challenge of teaching and learning within this period. There were measures put in place by the government for especially students at the senior secondary school to write their final examinations. That was very, very important for continuity. And so very, very, very serious measures were put in place. There were intensive public education on measures, preventive measures. All the such institutions, the secondary schools were disinfected. And then the PPEs were provided free. Every institution had this facility we call a hand washing facility. We call it the Veronica bucket facility. It's a bucket with a tap having a basin to collect the water and all, and a space for the liquid soaps used and all that. So these were common features in every secondary school. The government had to make sure all these were in place before the schools were reopened. And at the secondary school level, over 300,000 students managed to sit for their final senior high school examinations. At the junior level, 540 plus students were able to sit for their final examinations. So the COVID, the incident of COVID in the country brought everything to a halt within the education space, but measures were taken, some mitigating measures were taken, containment measures were put in place to ensure that things were not completely shut down. So at the secondary level, all final exams have been done. At the university levels, those who were in their final years were given the opportunity to write their examinations. So that is how the government responded to the incident of COVID-19. So just my final comment. We are just at the initial phase of developing a composite qualifications framework for the nation. We have taken into account the existence of the framework at the technical sector. We have learned and obtained lots of experience from participation in activities on this platform. What we seek to do, we have looked at lots of models on this platform. What we seek to do is not to copy any particular model, but to learn from all the experiences being shared. That is what we seek to do. And it is important for us to have in-house capacity for the management of this framework developed. So it is our wish that as we go along and continue to participate in the activities under this project, the assistance we need, that is by way of links to consultants and experts to help with the development of our framework, will be most welcome. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Maxwell. As always, I had to say a round of applaudissement for all the issues that you have highlighted and the reasons why this integrated new overarching framework is important, and also the various institutional elements that are that relate to phase, to these decisions to move ahead with developing this integrated framework. Thanks also for noting the fact that these peer learning webinars have also given sort of an opportunity to benchmark and look up other models and experiences, their challenges. So thank you very much. We have now still a little bit of just a few minutes for some questions. And there are several questions on the chat box. And maybe I would just read some of them. So there were questions addressed to Angola about the roadmap, the program, whether the program for underpinning the development of the national qualification system is approved. And I think that Anna already replied. There is interest by some of the participants to learn more about the roadmap, about the concrete steps being undertaken. I don't know if Anna, you want to say anything else related with these questions, or just references for possible further networking with you of some of the countries, interested countries, to learn more about the implementation of the roadmap. Portanto, o vosso plano de trabalho para
your roadmap in the national qualification plan. Would you like to say something, Anna? Thank you. I believe that I have addressed that question already. And I said that our plan of action was approved by the government. There is an interministerial body that congregates the ministries of labor, education, and tertiary education, economy, planning, and the entire work from the technical unity for the implementation of NQF and the national plan for HR training. Take all this into account, and it's taken into account at the highest level. Therefore, my answer is yes.
To Maxwell. And for example, from Cameroon, Dieudonné Kungufine is asking whether you have, let's say, qualification standards for higher education, so for universities. Joe Samuels from SAQA, from South Africa, has also asked about the current turnaround times for registration of qualifications in Ghana. I don't know if you would like to give pieces or some replies to these questions. They are all formulated in the chat box. So
yeah, so the very last one, the turnaround time, we normally give a minimum of 1 month for the evaluation of foreign qualifications, foreign certificates.
Okay.
But having said that, that's the minimum. You know, it can go beyond that. Much depends on how quickly we receive feedback from institutions which awarded the qualifications.
Okay. There is now a question from, there is also this question from Dieudonné from Cameroon, so about qualification standards for universities, so higher education. What is the situation?
In Ghana?
In Ghana, yeah.
Yes, there are standards for university qualifications. All universities are supposed to have the institutions are to be accredited, and their programs as well. So in the accreditation process, specific standards are set for specific qualifications at the doctoral level. There are specific standards that is related to who would supervise PhD programs, doctoral programs, and so on. And then there's also a standard that relates to the period within which the qualification, the program would have been completed. So there are timelines, there are specific standards related to supervision of theses or dissertations, and there are specific standards which are set for entry qualifications.
Thank you. A very last question just appeared now, and I'm going to read it. You can also see it yourself, Maxwell. It's from Jean Adotevi. He says that why put PhD and Doctor of Technology at different levels? And this question probably relates to slide 19 of your presentation, in which you outline the overarching framework, the map of the overarching framework. So on one side you have the NTVET qualifications framework of 8 levels. On the other side, the NQF levels. I don't know if there is some misunderstanding here, or you would like to. Yeah, thanks a lot.
There's no reason aside. I think it's a structural arrangement. You know, one is 8 levels, and this is 10. The conventional is 10. So I think in arranging, we'll look at it. I think it's something we need to look at. There's no specific reason for it. It's a structural arrangement on the proposed frame. So it's good. This is being pointed out. That's what we want for comments, you know, for restructuring and so on until it's perfected.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know if there is any question still. Somebody would like still to ask a question or remind us of a question that was perhaps forgotten.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Hi, how are you? This is
How are you doing?
Yeah, this is Botswana's qualification framework. How are you?
I'm fine. Good.
I'm sorry I had to join you a little bit late because I had another meeting that pulled me to the side. But that was a very comprehensive presentation, and I have a question for the presenter. I would like him to share with us the experiences that he has with how he works with the national universities in Ghana, whether it's 1 or 2, when it comes to the quality assurance processes that normally universities have, and how that comes through to the authority when they need to be accredited. How do they work with that? Secondly, the other one is more for engineering courses and even qualifications that are mostly guided by international standards. So how do they work with those to make sure that whatever they accredit aligns with international, like the Washington Accord standards? So those are my 2 key questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is a question from Botswana National Qualifications Authority.
Yes. So the quality assurance of tertiary institutions generally are looked at on 2 fronts. We look at the internal quality assurance. It is mandatory for every institution to have an internal quality assurance unit. And that unit is to be headed by not a staff of not less a rank than a senior lecturer. You know, so at least a senior lecturer should head the internal quality assurance unit. So those are to work with the institutions to make sure that all the standards based on which accreditation was granted are maintained or improved upon. And then the second front is the external quality assurance agent, which comes in periodically to do monitoring or a fixed period re-accreditation process. So for instance, if a new program is to be introduced, it will be granted 3 years of accreditation. During the re-accreditation process, all the indicators which were looked at, which were set as standards for the award of the initial accreditation will be looked at before the renewal, which would cover a period of 5 years, is granted. So that is how quality assurance and the process looks at all the indicators which cover the teaching and learning. For instance, we have the specific staff-student ratio for each type of qualification. You have to meet that. For every program, there's a requirement for at least 3 lecturers in that subject area, one of which should be a senior lecturer. Hello, am I?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so these are some of the indicators we look at: the staff-student ratio, the teaching, the qualification of teaching staff, and then we also look at fiscal facilities. See, so all these things are considered as part of the quality assurance arrangements. That is why the institutions also at the private sector are put under mentorship for a period before they are allowed to be on their own. So at the public level, where no mentorship is available, the external quality assurance agency, in this case, National Accreditation Board, enforces the application of the standards which are set before programs are approved for running.
Thank you very much, Maxwell. Thanks for all the replies. And I would like then now to immediately move to Cairo, to Egypt. Professor Johansson, Aid, President of NACAE, is ready to share her screen. You have all seen her presentation, and Professor Johansson is going to tell us quite a lot about the NQF story. It's an important element of her message today. Thank you very much, Professor Johansson. You can share your screen.
Okay. Thank you, Eduarda. But first, can you hear me well?
Yes, yes.
Because I have a problem with my voice. Yeah, so I might turn off this, my image so that I will have a better connection. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Let me share first. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Can you see it now?
Very good. Excellent. Thank you. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Eduarda. And gives me a great pleasure to be here today to share with you the story of the Egyptian experience of the National Qualifications Framework. We do have a little bit of a different experience since we started the NQF in 2006, but to date, we do not have an officially working NQF. But let me first start by introducing our agency. Okay, it is not moving. I don't know why. Okay, let me first start by introducing our agency, who we are, what we do, why did we develop an NQF, what were the stages, the story, and the current status, why, how was the NQF designed, its main features and the partners, and what are expectations and what are the quality assurance aspects of the NQF. what were the challenges for implementations, the lessons learned, and finally, I will briefly highlight our response to COVID-19. So who we are and what we do, we are the National Authority for Quality Assurance and Accreditation of Education, abbreviated as NAQA. NAQA was established by issuing the law 82 for the year 2006. And its executive regulations by its bylaws in 2007. We started working officially in January of 2008 as an independent entity reporting directly to the Prime Minister and held accountable by the Egyptian Parliament since we respond to them and we are held by and we publicly disclose all our findings and reports. Our mission is to develop the quality of education and ensure its continuous improvement to accredit educational institutions based on national impartial standards that conform with international standards. And our vision is to become a leading quality assurance and accreditation body that is recognized both nationally and internationally and regionally as an essential partner in the path for real reform education in Egypt. What do? We set and maintain standards for quality assurance and accreditation. We evaluate educational institutions by both by accreditation visits or through capacity building and training and technical support. One of our main objectives is dissemination of culture of quality. Our role also is to build trust in Egyptian graduates and the outcomes of the educational system by ensuring quality education to all learners. And recently we have the decree to develop and implement the NQF. So what is the NQF and why did we develop it? Of course, as we all know, national qualifications frameworks are systems for structuring existing and new qualifications according to learning outcomes, knowledge, skills, and competencies through any country. They allow to develop, assess, improve quality education in several contexts as a tool to compare two qualifications through learning outcomes inter and intra-region. And they classified according to sequential hierarchical levels. And finally, as a means of lifelong learning. And this might have been the basis for why we developed our qualifications framework. But more reasons have been the challenges that face the Egyptian education in the recent decades, both the general education and the vocational systems, due to the large numbers and as Eduarda was indicating earlier, we have a population of over 102,000 million, I wish there were 1,000. And we have many numbers of students in classes and in schools. Recently, we have had many international international education systems introduced to the landscape, which creates a diversified educational system with lack of a decent comparability between the different the different qualifications offered. We have a stigmatized vocational, technical education vocational systems with dead-end paths. We need, and hence we need a basis for quality assurance and accreditation of comparison. We need to build trust in educational outcomes, and all these have added to the mismatch between graduate attributes and market demands. And so to further elaborate, we believe that the NQF should or could bridge gaps between educational systems and market demands. Also, it can deal with the technical intermediate with the high or soaring levels of unemployability rates, particularly in the technical graduates and university graduates. So hence we see that, or believe that the NQF can overcome the discrepancies and imbalances in the education system, provide an overarching framework that will unify qualifications and build trust, link TVET general education systems, link TVET and general education systems. Yes?
Professor Johansson, you have a sound problem?
Yes. Can you hear me, or what's the problem?
Yes, that's good. That's good. Good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. You can go on.
Okay?
Okay.
All right. Excuse me, I lost my train of thought. Okay, link the TVET and general education systems, promote level progression, and permit. There is an echo, right?
Dr. Johansson, your sound is again down.
Yes.
Okay, now it's good. Dr. Johansson, we would like to ask, could you speak a little bit more slowly because of the interpretation?
Okay, I'll try.
Thank you.
Okay. Is the sound better now?
It is good.
Okay. Shall I carry on? All right. Yes. Okay. Link the TVET and general education systems, promote level progression and permit horizontal mobility, improve access to and mobility within the labor market, to improve the competitiveness of graduates and bridge the gap to the labor market, and promote lifelong learning and the recognition of formal, informal, and non-formal education by the RPL. So what is the story and what the stages of development and what is the current situation? I will try to go through this fast because it's a long history since 2006. Egypt was engaged with the ETF in a three-year cooperation for developing and implementing the NQF, and this was led by the Ministry of Manpower at the time. In 2007, NACA was established, and in 2008, NACA started becoming a partner in the establishment of the NQF, and so the project was submitted to the Prime Minister. In 2009, NACA presented a draft of the NQF to the Prime Minister, who approved NACA as the agency responsible for the development of the NQF, particularly that we stand at arm's length from all different institutions, since, as I indicated earlier, we are an independent institution. Then in 2010, several workshops were held and another draft was developed with 6 sectoral frameworks. Yet in 2011, the Egyptian revolution, political instability and social transformation kind of halted all forms of life and education in Egypt, and hence the project was halted. Is there a problem, Eduardo?
No, it's perfect, Dr. Johansson.
Okay, thank you. Then in 2014, with the new political regime, a new NACA administration was appointed. We held 2 workshops. The new administration was not aware of what was going on with the old NQF. And so we started, we held 2 workshops, both in October and December, with different stakeholders to revisit the NQF. In February of 2015, we conducted an international conference for the NQF to unify efforts, include all stakeholders, and to consult on the structure and design of the proposed framework. After that conference, an advisory committee or task force was formed to implement the recommendations of this conference. And then we started a series of dissemination of the NQF. In 2016, we submitted the project once again to the new Prime Minister with the new government, and he approved it and agreed on that we should proceed with the legislation and the implementation of the project. A series of workshops in 2016 and 17 were held. A final draft in 2016 was finished or compiled, and it was translated into Arabic because we started in English. Then we held an online consultation for the NQF. In March 2017, we started again with the amendments and the legislation and coordination. Then a series of workshops were held again. And then finally, on January 2018, a final draft for the legislation was submitted to the Parliament. I should say that within these workshops and consultations, we were advised that not to have a separate act or decree for the NQF, but rather to have it as part of the law of Naqa, which will make it stronger. And this was agreed by the Prime Minister and even the legislators. But this, although it made the NQF stronger, yet it is one of the causes that's making it harder to implement at the moment. And that's why I say it has been a long process. So if you have a brief look on the timeline, as we see here, we have started, if you look at it from 2014, we find that we are now in the legislation process, and we have been waiting for that for over 2 years now. Now, if you move on to the actual design of the NQF, if we look at the landscape of education in Egypt, we find on the one hand, we have the academic path that progresses from the general basic education from 6 years to the general preparatory from 3 years, then secondary up to the higher education and postgraduate. On the other hand, and maybe I should add before I move on, there is some flexibility and movement to join the labor market, but yet you're not allowed to go back to join the education once you leave, once you drop from school or do not continue your education. And this, of course, causes a lot of unemployment. And at the same time, if we look at the other hand, we have the technical and vocational path, which progresses up to the technical secondary. There is the vocational education that just stops at the preparatory stage. And then we have 2 years of intertechnical and of intermediate technical education, and 4 years of some limited, we just had like 8 or less than 8 colleges that offered the 4-year, and these were also were dead ends. What our plan for the NQF, and this came up from the consultancy that we've had, is to have uniform to join these together and to have a uniform one-tracked NQF with both academic and technical paths. At the same time, we formulated our targeted qualifications in a general outlined form so as to leave more flexibility for the sectors to develop their academic and learning, sectors or institutions to develop their academic and learning plan. The design strategy was based on defining sets of evolving skills and competencies that start with early qualification levels and progress throughout the different levels. Once a skill reached its ultimate value, it remains there, it remains constant, and we do not have anything more on that. And each of these evolving levels do not have, are set at a particular level and do not have to start at level 1. So we have an 8-level qualifications framework, starting from the general education up to the 8th level, the doctoral degree in the level 8. They're defined in knowledge, skills, and competencies. The outcomes in knowledge, skills, and competencies. Knowledge is type and extent. Skills are professional and cognitive. Competencies, autonomy, responsibility, and interaction. At that time, we had the National Skills Standards, which was the standards developed for the vocational sector. They had 5 standards, and each were defined similarly, and these were incorporated into our design of the NQF. If I elaborate more on the thematic design of the NQF, we start by knowledge from the skills building, from the elementary to the fundamental and up to the skills application, specialized, professional, integrated academic profession, and it reaches its top level with the level 8, where we have application and knowledge skill generation, where we have systematic, innovative, and creative knowledge generation. To further elaborate, if we look at this slide, we have here the knowledge skills building from the 8 levels, starting from the elementary knowledge up to the state of the art and the systematic. Then we have the knowledge application starting at level 3 and going on to the innovative in level 8, and the knowledge acquisition and generation, which starts or is only applicable to levels 7 and 8, which are the high-end acquisition competencies and the knowledge generation. And here is more explanation of some levels start at, do not necessarily have to start at level 1, but they can start differently and go on. And some levels or some skills such as the competency interaction, which starts with learn to work with others, up to work and lead a heterogeneous team of higher level expertise. And these reaches level 6. And of course, it does not expand more than that. Our stakeholders, all this was developed with the help of our stakeholders and partnerships. So we will, we had the help, of course, we had stakeholders from the ministries, Ministry of Higher Education, Ministry of Education and Technical Education, industry, tourism, manpower, social solidarity, universities and university professors, chambers, sector skills councils and trade unions. And of course, help and expertise were given from, like I stated earlier, the ETF, the TIVA2 project and the Twinning project. So what is the relation between NQF and quality assurance? We have, all our programs are developed based on our national academic reference standards, which are similar to the subject benchmarks. These standards describe graduate attributes that are derived from the NQF level descriptors at the respective levels. So in level 5, which is the graduate of the tertiary graduates, they have the graduate attributes, national academic reference standards. These are developed by NACA and the subject experts, and they endorsed by the board of NACA. Then we have the program, then the educational institutions will develop the programs, the course learning outcomes, and the teaching and assessment strategies. These are developed by the educational institutions, endorsed by the Supreme Council of Universities. And all these to guarantee quality, the alignment and the development will be checked by the NACA teams during the accreditation visits. We also started developing, we don't have a register yet, but we started working on some of the, the quality assurance for how to register any qualification on our register once we have the law and once it is, our register is developed. Our expectations from the NQF, like I indicated earlier, we have a fragmented landscape with dead ends for the technical development, gaps in the educational and the academic path. So we propose the technical bachelor's for 4 years, a higher education technical diploma for 1 to 2 years, and a higher education master's. There was a lot of debate about the doctoral degree, and so far we have not resolved this debate. So right now we do not have, we're not sure where this is going, how this this debate is going to end. So we believe that with the new, with the one-track NQF, we will fill in the gaps. We will open the track to for the technical path. We will actually have open the path for horizontal movement between the technical and the higher education, or the general secondary and the technical diplomas. And at the same time, we will guarantee through the RPL training and assessment, we will guarantee the movement to and from the labor market. Thus, we believe that we will have portable qualifications, fostering lifelong learning in RPL, and we will develop TVET and improve competitiveness, opportunity for progression, improve access and mobility to and within the labor market, and overcome social gaps, thus assuring quality, bridging gaps, building trust, recognition, and mobility. We have many challenges, like, but we have challenges for implementation and for development, both because we already developed the framework. Many ministries are involved and were involved with overlapping duties. So far, we have the legislation, which is really a big challenge for us. Designing tools and strategies and tools for the qualifications framework, such as the RPL and the unit and credit systems. engaging stakeholders and buy-ins, the national dissemination. We have not been very successful so far, really disseminating it nationally. Comparability with regional international qualifications frameworks, funding, designing a flexible education system that will allow for this mobility, and coordinating and management of the framework. And maybe like our colleague from Ghana said, our capacity building within the agency itself. The lessons we have learned, it is a long process, and I think we are living proof for that. It takes time, and we need to be patient, but not maybe we have been too patient. Stakeholder involvement and engagement has to be early on, and we have to always coordinate and have them engaged and fully aware of what's going on. We have to design a fit for purpose framework, and not to copy any frameworks, just like our colleague said that we do not need to copy frameworks from others. To conclude this part of the presentation, I'll try to go faster, bridging gaps, enhancing individuals' employability, and facilitating workers' participation in informal education and non-formal education and training, encourage lifelong learning, and overcome social and cultural economic inequity are part of what we would love our qualifications framework, once implemented, to overcome. I will briefly, to move on the second part of the presentation, I will briefly highlight what we have done with the QA, with the educational QA bodies, what we have done to COVID. But first of all, we have to agree on a couple of things. The whole world was taken by surprise. And we need to establish two facts: that quality assurance and accreditation cannot flourish except in a stable educational ecosystem. And actually, quality assurance might not have been at the forefront of everyone's mind during, nor a priority during the pandemic. What we have done in March, mid-March, there has been a shutdown of all education activity and actually everything, but let's just focus on education now. Education institutions responded by shutting down all education premises. No students were on campus. There was a turmoil for a while, and then we started the online and teaching and learning. Our agency responded also by postponing all site visits till further notice, and we started on capacity building and training for faculty members to master efficient online teaching. Later on, the Ministry of Education, Higher Education and Scientific Research, the Supreme Council of Universities, decided that the school year would end on April 30th, which normally goes on to June. The assessment became in the form of reports, online reports submitted online, and the final years only, that is just like our Ghana colleague said, those who were sitting for their high school diplomas or those who were graduating from university were the only cohorts that would do the actual assessments. Governmental institutions abided, but private universities and private schools went on and completed to the end of the semester, which was the end of June. There was online assessment, recently both Ministry of Education, Ministry of Higher Education have implemented the blended learning for all higher education institutions and for all schools. It's called, they have opted to name it a hybrid learning. In response to that, our quality assurance agency supported the implementation of the decree and supported any help that was requested from us to universities or schools. We started to guide some guidelines for online assessment, and we started a nationwide survey with the Ministry of Higher Education, and we prepared for our virtual actual visits, accreditation visits, which will start from this academic year, which in November of 2020. So we get to sum up, we say we assumed a responsive role. So we stepped back a little bit by postponing and suspending all scheduled accreditation activities. We expanded our online accreditation procedure. We extended all status of higher education institutions and schools, so no institution will be affected negatively by what happened. We prepared for the virtual actual visits. We're offering right now online training for effective teaching and learning, and we're preparing guidelines and regulations for online teaching and learning and assessment. I do not have to go through this because basically we spoke with, but I would like to clearly show how our actual pre-COVID visits, pre-COVID-19 visits were done. We had an online review for a week or two, where not all documents from the institution were raised on our system, and then we would have an actual site visit for 3 to 4 days, where all team members would attend. All documents and all observations and all meetings would be reviewed during that 3 to 4 days meeting. Right now, due to the COVID and due to the new education system, what we are doing is we are started an online review, which will be conducted for 4 to 6 weeks, where all institutions would upload all documents and a pre-visit report would be written before we go. There will be a virtual visit conducted on the week prior to the actual visit for virtual campus tour, meetings and observation of online teaching and learning, and as an actual visit for 1 to 2 days, depending on the size of the institute, where all the verification and review of all classified documents that were not uploaded, actual learning activities, and we're thinking of conducting some student meetings to make sure that all what we have seen in the virtual visit was true. And so finally, to conclude, quality assurance needs a more stable environment to flourish. Hence, we really must work on stabilizing our education ecosystem. We need to learn from the crisis, since there is no going back. This is the new normal, or the normal, the actual normal. We must acknowledge that online teaching and learning cannot substitute campus experience, nor can it substitute face-to-face teacher interaction or student-to-student interactions. Thus, we need a balance between actual and virtual education, online, blended, synchronous and asynchronous modes of delivery. Finally, accreditation agencies need to update their accreditation systems, give more weight to online activities. Accreditation agencies need to evolve and go beyond traditional quality assurance and accreditation roles, capacity building and learning. We need to work with education institutions to assure quality teaching and learning and assessment. We need to learn from current crisis and good practice, and always be prepared, and to maintain permanent status and sustainability of quality assurance education and higher quality assurance agency and higher institution educations. And finally, we may need to make sure that online education is both quality assured and available to all students. And thank you very much, and stay safe and healthy.
Thank you very much, Professor Johansson, for this comprehensive presentation, the story, the issues, and also the response to the COVID crisis, with this very strong accent done on the combination of various means of learning and of quality assuring as well. Thanks also for reminding that learning cannot become completely online. The interactions are still very necessary and fundamental, of course. Thank you very much for your contribution and for all the investment in this presentation. Very detailed, and your time here with us. You have always been a very, very faithful also participant of these peer learning webinars. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Professor Johansson. Colleagues, now we have a next presentation. It will be the 4th. And now we go to Harare, Zimbabwe. And again, we have a story, and it will be the Zimbabwean story of quality assurance and the National Qualifications Framework. So Professor Tsimbo and his colleague Dr. Kwandi will present. Thank you very much in advance for this contribution. Afterwards, we will have time for questions and answers. So do not hesitate, please, to write your comments and your questions on these two last sessions. Thank you. The floor is yours, Professor.
Erica, because of time, I will go to slide 14. So I'm going to focus on those 5 slides, slide 14 to slide 18. Okay, so let's go to those slides. The Zimbabwe National Qualification Framework was established in 2018. So it has been in existence for very few years. I think one of the advantages we've had is the fact that we're very close to South Africa. So that was one of our biggest benchmarks, although we looked at other African countries and other countries in the global north and global south. The primary objectives of the Zimbabwe National Qualification Framework is to establish pathways for vertical progression of education and training qualifications, to establish pathways for horizontal comparability of education and training qualifications, and increasing coherence between education output and the needs of the labor market. Therefore, the ZNQF integrates education and training into a unified structure of qualifications recognized locally, I would say continentally, and globally. It provides a mechanism to relate basic, tertiary, and higher education frameworks to each other in a manner that recognizes prior learning and mobility of learners and graduates. And one may add the portability of credits across the entire system of education and training in the Zimbabwean case, which involves TVET institutions as well. It provides for the horizontal movement of learners through the standardization of similar courses in institutions of higher and tertiary education. Slide number 15. The ZNQF integrates the whole education system in the country through the following 3 major mechanisms: the establishment of pathways for vertical progression of education and training qualifications, the establishment of pathways for horizontal comparability of these qualifications, then the development of standardized qualifications for increased coherence between education output and the needs of the labor market. Like all countries, our focus in terms of the labor market is really to prepare students from primary and secondary education to vocational and technical education to university education. You know, the common employability skills that we all know, such as ability to work under pressure, capacity to be flexible in the workplace, ability to meet deadlines, understanding the nature of one's business or organization, demonstrating leadership skills, demonstrating management skills, taking responsibility for personal professional development, and demonstrating initiative in the workplace. And like the other speakers have said, with the new emphasis now on online teaching and learning and the usage of the affordances of ICTs, these technical skills are becoming extremely important. If I go to slide number 16, the ZNQF synergizes the vertical progression of linkages between the Zimbabwe Secondary Education Council, the Higher Education Executive Committee, and the Zimbabwe Council for Higher Education, which is my own organization, which deals mainly with tertiary institutions, primarily universities, which these 3 are the primary regulatory agencies for basic education, TVET and higher education respectively. And we constitute a national committee that oversees, in terms of governance, that oversees primary education, secondary education, TVET education, and higher and tertiary education, including teacher education and polytechnical education. The ZNQF in the Zimbabwean case establishes the mechanism for putting in place what we are now calling the minimum bodies of knowledge, which are operational at the higher and tertiary education levels, In the South African context, they call these the SESM categories, the classification of educational subject matter. So in the Zimbabwean case, the ZNQF establishes mechanisms for putting qualification standards and skills proficiency schedules through subject, program, and trade panels at the vocational and technical level, especially in our technical institutes and vocational institutes. These issues of subject, program, trade panels are very critical. In fact, they are the driver for quality assurance. They are the driver for common standards. They are the driver for common examinations at this level. This enables a harmonized credit accumulation and transfer system that we call ZIMCATS. And in the Zimbabwean case, this harmonized credit accumulation and transfer system is already in place. And this committee that I talked about earlier on, which is made up of ourselves, the Zimbabwe Council for Higher Education, and the what we call HEXICO, the Higher Education Examinations Council, and the Zimbabwe Examinations Council, which looks after primary education examination systems and quality standards, and secondary education quality systems and standards. In the Zimbabwean case, we are probably one of the few countries on the African continent that for high school, our students go to what we call Form 6 A levels. So they spend 6 years in high school. For primary school, they spend 7 years. And obviously at the university level, especially for the bachelor's degrees and the TVET colleges, that will vary from 3 to 4 years, depending on where the student is studying. In terms of other aspects, slide number 17, in terms of other aspects of the ZNQF, the framework provides for the harmonization and the standardization of both the new and existing Zimbabwean qualifications. So the bodies that I talked about earlier on are the bodies that look into the registration and the quality assurance and the standards of the qualifications. For example, for us in the Zimbabwe Council for Higher Education, we register new academic degree programs, but we also oversee the quality assurance of these programs, especially at the degree level, at both the undergraduate and postgraduate levels. The Zimbabwe National Qualification Framework gives the 10 levels of qualifications from basic, tertiary, and higher education. I think like most other African countries, we have got these 10 levels that we have in our Zimbabwe National Qualification Framework. The ZNQF provides the relevant level descriptors in terms of knowledge, in terms of skills, in terms of competencies, and even in terms of attitudes. At the moment, one attitude that is being laid emphasis on right from ECD, early childhood education and development, is the whole area of values, because we feel our values have gone down in the gutter, and the education system becomes one of the few places, one of the critical places that we can enhance and impart certain values in our students. So I'm saying the ZNQF provides the relevant level descriptors of knowledge, of skills, of competence and attitudes for each respective ZNQF level. The governance of the Zimbabwe National Qualification Framework is through the Ministries of Higher and Tertiary Education, Science and Technology Development, and the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education. These are the two ministries that are really responsible for the governance of the Zimbabwe National Qualification Framework. The coordinating mechanism is through the National Alignment Committee. The National Alignment Committee brings together all the stakeholders. So if you were to say, what is the governance structure that ensures that the ZNQF is managed and directed and led properly? That structure is the National Alignment Committee, which brings together all key stakeholders in the education and training environment. Now, what I want to do is, I want to go to slide number 18, I hope it comes out clearly on the screen. The ZNQF provides a mechanism to relate basic, tertiary, and higher education frameworks to each other in a manner that recognizes prior learning and mobility of learners and graduates. The ZNQF achieves this by following three major mechanisms. The first one is the establishment of pathways for vertical progression of education and training qualifications. The second is the establishment of pathways for horizontal compatibility of these qualifications. And the third is the development of standardized qualifications for increased coherence between education output and the needs of the labor market. So if you look on that chart, we have got general education, which starts from primary education, then secondary education, which we call ordinary level. Of course, we got influenced by the British education system. And then we've got our advanced level. So the advanced level is 2 years. The secondary education is 4 years. And the primary education is 7 years. Our system, much to the chagrin of educators like me, is exam-driven. So at primary level, the grade 7, the kids write an examination which they pass or fail and determines literally who goes to high school. At the high school level, they write ordinary levels after 4 years. And the pass rate for educators like me is very disappointing. And then they then go for 2 years before they go to university. That's what we call our advanced levels. And they write a public examination as well. So you can tell the kind of crisis that we are in because of the deleterious impact of the COVID-19, where most of our kids have not been in school since March. And this is the period our kids in grade 7, in Form 4 to finish secondary school, and A-level are writing exams. And again, for educators like me, it's not a good time at all. Then the next is the TVET. The TVET, it starts with National Foundation Certificates, Skilled Worker Class 3, National Certificate Skilled Worker Class 2, National Certificate Skilled Worker 1, and then it goes to Higher National Diploma, then a Bachelor of Technology, a Master of Technology, and even a Doctor of Technology. So that's the TVET strand. Then the higher education strand, it obviously starts with certificates, diplomas, advanced diplomas, and this is generally offered in the universities. And then the general degrees, then honors degrees, the master's, postgraduate diplomas, and certificates, and then finally a doctorate. Then the next strand in our ZNQF would be the professions, which start really with the basic stuff and moving way up to professional level 3. So in terms of the ZNQF level, for instance, our primary education is level 1, our secondary education is level 2, our advanced level is level 3, then the national certificates are level 4, 5, and 6, and our higher education diplomas is level 6. The general degree starts at level 7, going up to level 10, which is our PhD in that order. So in a nutshell, colleagues, that's a summary of the Zimbabwean national qualification framework. But like in all other systems, we depend on our level descriptors, starting obviously with the PhD, which obviously, like in any other systems, the type of occupation is either a doctor or a researcher, and it's cutting-edge research. The descriptor is cutting-edge research and creation of new knowledge in the development of the study. At a master's level and postgraduate, it's obviously the expert specialist, and the descriptors range from mastery of knowledge in the field of study, to function within a wide ranging area and in terms of independence of that particular individual to operate wherever they have to. And then our level 8, which is the honors degree, we are looking for a descriptor such as methodological comprehension of strategic facets in an area of specialty, going down to work within a wide-ranging self-sufficiency. Then the general degree, which is level 7, we are really looking for comprehensive knowledge in the area of specialty, going right down to applying recognized tenets, coding for a wide range of information to work out challenges in diverse workplaces. And the higher national diploma, like in most countries, the descriptors will range from work within wide-ranging self-sufficiency to work within wide range of structures and a specific self-sufficiency area. So I just want to end by really emphasizing the governance structure, that the governance structure of the Zimbabwe National Qualification Framework is part and parcel of two other bodies, as I mentioned earlier on. My own organization, which deals with quality assurance, registration, and accreditation of universities, or even de-accreditation of programs and universities, the Zimbabwe Council for Higher Education. Then the body that we call the Higher Education Examinations Council, which really looks deeply at the issues of polytechnics, vocational and technical institutions, independent institutions, etc., etc. And obviously the body that looks at primary and secondary education, and the focus is obviously on primary, secondary schools and non-formal institutions that deal with these institutions. So that's the governance structure in the Zimbabwean case. And for me, I think that's really the most important item that I thought I should talk to you about. So what I'll do, Erica, what I'll do is let us go straight to the last slides that I want to talk to. Let us go to slide number 19. Slide number 19. Thank you. Most of our universities in Zimbabwe have now established institutional quality assurance unit. All universities have a person in charge of quality assurance, and they've got these units to enhance public awareness of quality assurance in higher education. And this is now being appreciated in the country. And it has comparable quality assurance standards and guidelines are now in place in all our institutions of higher education. Some regional external quality assurance agencies now even consult our own organization in terms of quality assurance issues indicative of ZIMCHE's positive impact. One of the key developments in terms of our higher education system, and we've borrowed heavily from the American system and the South African system, is the development of what we're calling minimum bodies of knowledge across the entire higher education sector. That 80% of the content in terms of depth and breadth is the same. What differentiates our 21 universities in particular is the 20% that they can put whatever distinctive feature in terms of the form, content, and orientation of their programs. And we, as the Zimbabwe Council for Higher Education, are then responsible for ensuring the quality of these minimum bodies of knowledge and skills. Let me end by emphasizing the quality assurance issues and challenges. And I'm on slide 20, Erica. Quality assurance practitioners in the country have limited capacity to implement international best practices, whether they're from the African continent or from the global south in general or the global north. The issue of resources to build capacity for quality assurance personnel in higher education institutions is also a serious challenge. There is obviously limited expertise to harmonize current quality assurance practices and procedures across the sector. And like in all education institutions, especially the tertiary level, there is latent resistance from academics in terms of these kinds of innovations as far as curriculum reform is concerned, as far as governance structures are concerned, as far as accreditation systems are concerned. So there are plans to enhance quality assurance in higher education. On slide number 21, Erica, it is hoped that the harmonized standards and guidelines would further enhance the Zimbabwe Council for Higher Education's performance as a modern external quality assurance agency characterized by increased stakeholder confidence and trust in the work that we do, stakeholder satisfaction with our work as a quality assurance agency and provider. And the issues of accountability, transparency, which is a sine qua non for any successful external quality assurance agency. Like the speakers before me, I would like to end this discussion, this presentation, with the impact of the COVID-19. The impact has been felt seriously, especially at the primary and secondary schools. As an African country, our rural schools, like in any other African country, are not connected at all. So the teachers, the kids, the parents, literally have a crisis in their hands, which bilateral and multilateral organizations are trying very hard to assist as we move to online teaching and learning in these institutions. At the tertiary and university level, we did not have such a very big challenge because the issues of connectivity have not been very, very difficult to obtain within the context of the Zimbabwean scenario. So the ZIMSHE, my organization, and the organization that deals with secondary schools and primary schools, the Zimbabwe Council for Education, and the organization that deals with vocational and technical education, which we call HEXICO, are working so hard to ensure that our students across the board have got devices, that our teachers have the training to be able to develop online teaching and learning materials, to be able to assess students online, to be able to examine students online. So this is part and parcel of what we are all involved in at the moment in terms of making sure that the Zimbabwe National Qualification Framework remains a very live and critical body within the education system in Zimbabwe across the board. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor, for this presentation. Very convincing and full of energy, if I may say, and for focusing on the Zimbabwe QF. This was also a good resolution, I guess, from your side. There are a number of questions on the chat box, and we have now the opportunity to go through some of these questions, at least both related to Egypt and Zimbabwe. So I was already taking a couple of notes on some of these questions. May I start with Zimbabwe, Professor Johansson, if you don't mind? So, for example, questions related with, well, could you explain a little bit more on the MB case? There are several persons interested. Then, was the Zimbabwe National Qualifications Framework conceived from the start as a unified framework, or was it trying to integrate together sub-frameworks that already existed, as we have seen, for example, in the case of Ghana? Just to try to understand a little bit different trajectories or roads to develop national qualifications frameworks. Then there is also a question about the governance of Zimbabwe National Qualifications Framework. Could you give a little bit more information on how, let's say, different conflicting, let's say, situations or positions are managed within the current governance framework? So, with the National Alignment Committee playing the role of main coordinating body. Maybe just these three. And I'd like also to say thank you very much for mentioning also the African standards and guidelines for quality assurance, that you are doing substantial work to align with them. And we can even insert here in the chat box the web link to the African standards and guidelines for quality assurance. Thanks a lot. Just a few words about this. And
thank you very much, Eduardo. Muito obrigada. The minimum bodies of knowledge and skills in the Zimbabwean context are driven by the Ministry of Higher Education through my own body, the Zimbabwe Council for Higher Education. This has been an effort to transform higher education in the country, being driven by a philosophy that we call a heritage-based philosophy of education 5.0. The main essence of that heritage-based philosophy is to ensure that higher education institutions, in particular, even primary and secondary schools, should expose students to knowledge, skills, and competencies that enable them to produce goods and services. Let me start at the higher education. In the past, the focus was on teaching, on community engagement, and on research. We've moved to include innovation, commercialization, and industrialization, so that our universities now produce goods and services. So right from the sanitizers, the masks that we're wearing, primary and secondary schools are producing those. But this goes right up to universities. We've ensured that the content in a BSc in engineering in all our 21 universities, 80% of that content is the same. And this work was produced by our thought leaders in engineering, for instance, across the universities. The emphasis is to transform our programs so that our students focus on producing goods and services, research and innovation when they complete. Let me just give you two examples. For instance, our BSc in pharmacy is now changed to a BSc in drug discovery and pharmacy, so that these young men and women, as they start their programs, the emphasis is on the production of medicines. The medical degree has changed from the British model. Our medical degree students start with 3 years of biological sciences, then they go to the clinical sciences. The whole idea is to make sure that they understand the biology, biochemistry, biotechnology, so that Zimbabwe does not continue to buy medicines from India and other countries, like what's happening in the majority of the third world countries. But that's just 80% of the content in terms of depth, breadth, and coverage. The 20%, this is what distinguishes each institution. So the emphasis on the MBKs is to ensure that every higher education institution, 21 of them, it must have an innovation hub. And in that innovation hub, they focus on whatever they want to. My favorite institution focuses on the production of semen for cattle in this country, because we used to import that. Now they export millions of these vials. Okay. Then the second question was on the governance structure. It's a well-coordinated system, the governance structure. So if I can go to that, you said the unified framework, Eduardo. Just quickly, this National Alignment Committee, which we call NAC, is made up of the Zimbabwe Secondary Examination Council, the Higher Education Examination Council, the Zimbabwe Council for Higher Education. So the ZIMSEC is for primary and secondary education. The HEXICO deals with polytechnics, ITCs, TVET and independent institutions, TVET qualifications, awarding bodies, vocational and training centers, and we deal with state universities, non-state universities, and degree awarding bodies. So the three of us constitute a national alignment committee, and we play an advisory role, a coordination function, and we work together with the representatives of the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, the Ministry of Higher Education, and a number of other ministries such as health and agriculture, all those ministries that deal with education and training. And then your last question was on standards. Yes, as an African country, we have to be part and parcel of the African standards, and we are working at the African National Union level. We're working with you, Eduarda, on these issues. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor, for your replies and very detailed unpacking of the concept and practice, not only concept, but practice of the MB case. Colleagues, questions to Professor Johansson. Please use this opportunity. She was very comprehensive in her presentation, but you might still have questions. Some of the questions asked were already received replies in the chat box directly. But if you still have any question to Professor Johansson on the Egypt story. No? Nobody has now? Yes, please.
Boa tarde.
Boa tarde. Professor Johansson, this question will be in Portuguese, so please.
Good afternoon, Professor Johansson. This question is going to be in Portuguese. Amilcar, please.
Okay.
To whom would you like to address your question? Well, thank you very much for the presentation and a work well done. Professor, could you explain the process that you went through in order to harmonize and articulate the various systems and include them in the NQF? What are the steps that you had into account? Yes, to whom is the question addressed? To one of the presenters or to both? This one is to Professor. The last name, last presentation, I think from Zimbabwe. I cannot recall the name.
The question is
from
for
Zimbabwe, yes. The question is for Professor Zimbo. I hope you understood the question.
So Amilcar, who represents the coordination unit of the National Qualification System of Cape Verde, asks, could you give a bit more of information about the articulation between academic and vocational pathways and the steps undertaken to get there, to better to better permeability, progression, routes, and articulation.
Thank you. Do you want me to start?
Yes, please. The floor is yours.
Thank you. In fact, the fundamental principle of the linkages between general education, which is primary and secondary, TVET education, higher education, which is university education, the professions, is embedded in these levels. For instance, a student who finishes 4 years of higher education, that student can then go straight into a skilled worker class as a builder, as a carpenter, as an electrician, as a plumber, as an IT specialist with what we call skilled levels 3 and levels 4. That person can then go straight, if she wants, to a national certificate as a skilled worker class 2, which is our level 4 on the ZNQF. But the same person can also go to a university and get a certificate, which is also level 4. But if she wants, from skilled worker class, she can move straight to the professions and become an artisan, a technician, or a skilled worker, which is level 4. But all these people at level 4, they can articulate, for instance, our student who has spent the 2 last years of high school, the advanced level. She can then go straight up and get a diploma, which is our level 5 in a university. Or with the professions, she can become a technician, level 1. Or in a TVET institution, still at level 5, she can then have a national diploma, skilled worker class 1. That very same person who is a skilled worker class 1 at level 5, if she wants, she can go straight to a university to do an advanced diploma. If she wants, she can then remain in the TVET strand and get a national diploma, skilled worker class 1, which is still at level 5. If she wants from skilled worker class 1 from the TVET, she can move right across to a university and get an advanced diploma, which is level 6. And if she decides and say, now I want to get a degree, then she goes right up in a university and get a general degree in computer science, in the arts, in commerce, and in business, which is our level 7. So the articulation is very clear. Educators like me criticize the system because it is examination oriented. These exams define the life of these young men and young women. And an educator like me, I'm a critic of this system. Although I had one of the, I'm heading one of the regulatory bodies, so you can imagine on a daily basis, I have headaches over this system. But I hope I've answered your question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I think the Amilcar pode continuar a conversa depois com o professor.
You may continue on bilateral this issue. I may share his email with you because it is very interesting. Thank you very much. I'll
Professor Jimbo
do that.
for again this detailed clarification, and I am myself surprised positively by all the possibilities of really moving in horizontally and vertically. Thank you. Colleagues, we are really at the end of our webinar today, and as always, let's do our final joyful, let's say, exercise of the Mentimeter. Today we have 4 questions. I hope you paid attention to all presentations, because all the questions concern the presentations, even the first presentation. So I am, second. Okay. I can share briefly. You already have the web link in the chat box. And let us very briefly then just look at the main questions. I think you are seeing my presentation. So the first question is about the African Union policies and strategies that underpin the ACQF. I think you all know, since we have been more or less recalling them since the beginning of this peer learning program. And here you can simply write up to 4 of them, if you remember, 4 of them. So this is an open-ended question. The next question is about the Angolan national qualifications system. And it is the following: which are the main pillars of the national qualification system of Angola? You all remember the presentation done by Ana Claudia, and you can choose up to 3 out of these various possibilities. So you remember it was clearly said the NQF is not an isolated instrument. It is part of the national qualification system in construction. And there are several things that form this national qualification system. So this is question 2. It will be a multiple choice question. Then we have the next question about the national qualifications framework, Egypt, and we just wanted you to say what do you recall from the main phases of the story or history of the national qualifications framework of Egypt: information mobilization, construction, consultation, etc. So which are the up to 4 steps out of those that are proposed here? And finally, we just wanted you to say in your own words, this is an open-ended question, which are the main commonalities between the national qualifications frameworks of Ghana and Zimbabwe? And we know that they are in different stages, let's say, of development and consolidation. Nonetheless, we all recall a couple of commonalities. So now I will then already pass the screen to Erika, and she's going then to start the Mentimeter. Do you all have already access to the Mentimeter? Have you all already clicked the link that was given, that is on your chat box? You just click and you go directly there. You don't need to insert any additional code or so. It's a very easy exercise just to relax a little bit and think a little bit about the main takeaways, findings from this very, very rich session we had today with 4 African cases. These cases represent 180 million people in the 4 countries put together. So now we have already 10 participants online. Erika, I think you can already start the first question. Yes. So now, colleagues, you have a moment to write which are the main strategies or policies of the African Union that underpin the ACQF in trade, free movement of people, education, Agenda 2063. If you want just to write in your own words. Are you all already on the first question? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, mobility. Okay, good. Thank you. 2063. Thank you. Okay. 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 Perhaps we can already move then to question 2. Yes. So would you like to then vote which are the main pillars of the national qualifications system in Angola? Okay, very good. Any additional vote? I see that everyone is voting correctly. Nice. Thank you. Very good. Oh, I think, Anna Claudia, you have passed very well your message. People, colleagues, participants are voting correctly. Thank you. Maybe, Erika, could you already move then to the 3rd? Thank you. So, which are the main phases of Egypt QF story? Thank you. Very good. Thank you. Some colleagues are still thinking. Thanks a lot. And maybe, okay, still some votes coming. Professor Johansson, what do you think about these replies?
Okay. I think that they're just show how attentive everyone was. So this is great. Thank you, guys.
And there is a suggestion there, more or less, that next phase will be the website or the inventory of training courses or training programs. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor. And Erika, then the last question is again an open-ended question. So please just write up to 3 words or expressions about what are the commonalities. Quelles sont les affinités entre le cadre national de certification du Ghana et du Zimbabwe?
What are the commonalities between Ghana and Zimbabwe and QF?
O que é que viram de mais importante?
What did you find as the most important between these 2 frameworks of Zimbabwe and Ghana?
Okay. Yes. Thank you very much. Interesting. TVET, strong position. That's good. The TVET strand. Well, yes, we already have here many different proposals, including quality also. The 10 levels, of course. May I ask Maxwell, what do you think about these proposals, these opinions, in your view, Maxwell from Ghana? Or Professor Zwimbo? Is this a good reflection?
Yes, a number of them are.
Okay.
The points about the TVET qualifications, the articulation generally, and then the levels, that is 1 to 10. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think standardization too. Yeah.
Okay.
So a number of them
I
are.
completely agree. I agree with my colleague from Ghana, and I think it's primarily because, in terms of our education systems, we have the same background. I'm not very proud of it, but it's a British background. So I think that's why there are these similarities, because, I mean, if I go to Ghana, I can go to Cape Coast without any problem, or to KNUST without any problem.
Wow.
And similarly, students from Ghana, if they're coming from Legon, you know, they can go to the University of Zimbabwe without any problem at all. The same applies to academics that teach in these institutions. We do not have any problem. So I think that's the reason why there are those similarities. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Erika, if you want to very quickly show all the results, as we always do, starting with the first question. Erika is a master of Mentimeter. She does always very nice presentations of Mentimeter. Yes, so here we have the main African Union policies and strategies underpinning the ACQF. Thank you. Yes, I see harmonization, also very good. Yep. The main pillars of the national qualification system in Angola in construction. Thanks also. I think it's really correct. The next is, yes, the story of Egypt and QF, the main phases. Thank you. And the last. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. Articulation appears very strongly in this last question. Thank you. I will, to finish, I would like just to share again my screen. So I think I cannot yet share. Okay, now I probably can. I hope. And we will finish immediately. But, okay. I think there is a little bit of an overlap. And so we don't do the screen sharing. I just wanted to say then that we will continue sharing in the next webinar that will take place on the 22nd of October, the experiences of African NQFs and regional qualifications frameworks. So we will have next time Zambia. Zambia is doing also quite interesting work, including reviewing, refining the qualifications framework, and doing also some interesting work with digital credentials, certificates. This will be also a new point for our peer learning. Remember, we said that for now we did not talk a lot enough about digitalization, but it is getting stronger now. And then we will have, of course, Cape Verde. I'm a very enthusiastic always about the case of Cape Verde. It's a 10 years already experience framework, also based on an articulation of pillars, including recognition of prior learning. So the RVCC recognition, validation of competences. And Amilcar has already even prepared this presentation, and I think it will be very interesting for everybody. Then we will have two regional qualifications frameworks, the one of SADC, Southern African Development Community, and also the one of East African Community. So we thank already in advance colleagues for the four cases that are coming up. Again, they will be looking at the various topics that we have seen so far, but from different angles. Thank you, participants. Thank you, speakers, interpreters, and the team in ETF that is driving, sitting behind the wheel of the technology that allows us to cooperate, to share, to continue staying in touch despite the crisis in the world. And I think these webinars also give us a sense of community and relax us in a way also that we can see each other, we can continue talking with each other. And yeah, thanks a lot, all colleagues who are contributing. Let me just say, I use this opportunity to tell colleagues from Sierra Leone that you will be, if possible, if you agree, you will have your presentation as you have requested in the last webinar. The last webinar of this series is planned for the 29th. Mr. Jallo from Sierra Leone. It is just to say that we were, of course, very encouraged by your interest in sharing the Sierra Leone experience in developing the National Qualifications Framework. So we have scheduled you in the last webinar. Okay. It will be on the 29th of October. Right. So in that webinar, we will have South African National Qualifications Framework, Sierra Leone, and then also a session on digital credentials, Europass digital credentials. So I would like just that we stay in touch with you. Towards that, the preparation of your presentation, and we are really very happy that you have proposed yourself. You have proactively proposed to make your presentation. So 29th of October. Please, can you send me an email? You have my contact, and I also left my email in the chat box so that you can continue the communication. Okay. Yes. Thank you very much, everybody. Please stay safe. Tomorrow we will already have the web link to the YouTube channel, in which you have all these videos in the 3 languages. Thank you very much, all colleagues from all countries. All the regions of the continent are represented here, all languages. Thank you again, speakers. And I will start with Ana Claudia, then Maxwell. I know Maxwell has a very, very busy time now, but he managed to come. Thank you very much, Professor Johansson, and thank you, Kuzvinets, for your always energy and enthusiasm and convincing way of approaching things. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
We stay in touch. let us please do this, waving. And please, you can open your cameras. It's always the most beautiful moment is when everybody waves with all your cameras open. And thank you, colleagues. I see Pauline. I'm so happy to see you, Pauline. Thank you.
Thank
John,
you.
also, Ida, everybody, Alexandre.
Okay.
See you next time on the 22nd. 22nd, always the same time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll be here to join you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a nice
Thank you.
day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Até a próxima.
See you next time.
Stay safe.
Thank you.
So much. Goodbye.
Take care.
Bye
Take care.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Merci beaucoup. Bye.
Merci.